Let's import our movies data again. And we're also going to need to load up our all genres list like we did last time. Then we need to get all the uniques out of that list, all 18 of them. Initiate our NP array of all zeros to match the size and length that we need. Then we need to convert that to a data frame with the column heads being all the unique genres. And now that we have that, we can come down to where we had left off in our last video. Our first approach to get our indices, we recreated them using this range method, and then we looped through and simulated our indices that way, and that worked. But there's a more sophisticated approach to this. In this second example, we're using the Python enumerate method. Let me comment out these two lines of code and put a print command in here so we can explore what's going on. And let's initially just print out the X. Let's see what we get. You probably remember this from our Python course, that with enumerate, every time we loop, it also counts that loop. It tells us that this is the first loop and this is the second loop. And this output is in a tuple. And as we know, tuples have indexes. So the first index here is 0, and that represents the enumeration. And the second index in those tuples is a 1, which represents the values that we seek. Let's run these tuples again. If we look at this code here, we're using the 1 index as the value that we need to split, and then we're using the 0 index when we change all those appropriate 0 values to a 1. So let's get rid of this print command and uncomment these two rows again and run this. And now if we output the head of our dummies data frame, you'll see that that also worked. And so let's look at our final example here. We're going to need to reinitiate these numbers again, and then we're going to have to run this data frame once again to clear those values. And if we run this again, we see we're back to all zeros. And we can take this one step further by adding a second temporary variable in this for loop. Right? So here we have a first temporary variable, and here we have a second temporary variable. That's a convenient way to look at what we're doing here. Let's comment these out and then do a print command again. And if we run X here, we're getting all of these 0 indices from our enumerate method. But if we run E here, we see that we're getting all our 1 indexes from our enumerate. Let's delete this print command, uncomment these lines again, and run this. And if we explore our data frame again, we see that we've accomplished the exact same thing. We've looked at 3 different methods to one-hot encode the respective genre sets for each one of our movies in our movies data frame. So a last appropriate step here would be to go ahead and join the movie's title with this coding. Let's run that. And there's our coding. Toy Story has these first 3. Jumanji has, it's a children's genre, it's an adventure genre, and it's a fantasy genre. We have them all mapped now. Something else we can look at before moving on to string manipulation is how that we can use the getDummies method together with the cut method in order to run a sort of a preparatory work for statistical applications. What we're doing here is running this random seed method. What this does is it sets these numbers so that they're going to be the same every time we generate these random numbers. So let's run this. And here's the numbers we've generated. If we run this again, you'll see that these numbers do not continually change every time we randomize. That's because we're using the seed method first. So here we have these numbers, and we're going to cut these numbers into bins. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bins. If we just inspect our array, we can see that this first bin is probably only going to have 1 value in it. This second bin between 0.2 and 0.4 is going to have 1 value, 2 values, looks like 2 values. So let's run this and see what happens. Looks like we have 1 value in this set, Looks like we have 2 values in this set. It looks like we have 2 values in this set, 3 values in this set, and 2 values in this set. So instead of encoding for a single value now, we've encoded for these predetermined groups. And again, this can be useful later when we do some statistical applications, which we'll do later in the course.